Guys, I'm Steve. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If it's your first time stopping by the channel, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't regret it. You're a returning subscriber as always, guys. Welcome back, and I do appreciate the support. Guys, I got a story that is shocking. I'm going to just get into it. Listen. There was a story, I think it was last week or the week before, I wanted to do, but I didn't have time to get around to it with other stories I was doing, in which a teenage girl in Detroit, somebody climbed in her window, threatened her at knife point, and assaulted her. Come to find out, the person of interest which they were still looking for has been tied to at least 11 other similar crimes in Pontiac, Michigan, right? As well as the one in Detroit and another one in Detroit. So it's 13 different cases this one person has been tied to. Here's the kick. He's 13 years old. They're saying a 13-year-old boy did this. Said he was running around looking for homes, targeting where he thought young girls stayed. I'm going to play you a video that was played yesterday before, talking about how the neighborhoods was on alert. And then I'm going to play you the police presser. Go ahead and take a look at this. This is really unsettling that nowadays these younger kids are doing some of the strangest things you wouldn't think in their minds they would be exposed to, but for some odd reason, you're seeing some wild stuff out here. This is truly concerning. Look.
Right now, all we have is this picture to go on right here. Police telling Pontiac residents to keep windows and doors locked while they look for the man who they say is at the center of a series of home invasions targeting women. Here's a map of the 4 incidents, all within blocks of each other here. The latest, an attack on a 10-year-old little girl at a home on North Marshall Street. Victor Williams is live in Pontiac for us tonight. Victor, are police any closer to finding out who this person is?
Kimberly, unfortunately, not at this point. There are no new leads on this man's whereabouts. So they want you guys to take a closer look. As you guys can see, this is the person they're looking for. At this point, both investigators and parents, well, they want him behind bars.
It feel weird. Like, I didn't know he was going around doing it. I thought we were the only people.
Shantae Pryor is another mother worried about a serial home invader believed to have been the one who got into her home and assaulted her daughter back on January the 25th.
This young man, whoever it is, threatened her with a knife and some scissors and told her to take her clothes off or he'd kill her.
Lieutenant Sam Marsban with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office is now looking into the situation that has an entire Pontiac community on edge. All incidents have taken place in this close area.
We're investigating 4 incidents. We're also looking back at other home invasion incidents we have to see if we could connect the cases.
The suspect, who has a pattern of getting into homes during the early hours of the morning thanks to doors or windows being unlocked, is still on the loose. As investigators work to take this guy down, residents are urged to make sure their homes are secure. The Pontiac School District doing the same with this letter that went out to parents, which partly reads, quote, "We strongly encourage you to report any suspicious activity immediately to the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. Please ensure that all windows and doors in your homes are securely locked and take extra precautions to remove any potential vulnerabilities that could assist someone in gaining entry. If you have any type of video surveillance system or alarm, we encourage you to use it."
If they see anything suspicious on their Ring camera, we'd like them to contact us. They can contact us through our tip line.
You can also leave an anonymous tip with 1-800-SPEAK-UP. So once again, if you do see this guy, call police immediately. Victor Williams.
Yeah, we'll do. Okay.
And so now, as we stand here, we believe very much so that the suspect we have in custody is the person responsible for those cases in Pontiac and in Detroit. We believe pretty solidly. And I'd also like to thank our deputies in our Pontiac substation, our detectives, our forensic lab that do an amazing job to then put together the cases that will proceed when we hand the baton to our prosecutor to take it into the next phase. And so very proud of the work they've done. And our substation commander Major Ewing and his team do on a daily basis, and our mayor from Pontiac is supportive in our role to do those kinds of things and reach out to the community. Joining me is from Detroit Police Department is Commander Ryan Connor, Officer Justin Hearn, and Detective Melinda Cook. So they're involved in the cases and the processes as it relates to the city of Detroit. So as I said, we believe this individual is responsible for now up to 11 distinct home invasions. It seems, again, to be targeting young girls. The most recent one was where he had grabbed the female in her bedroom and had a knife. We believe he had a knife in at least 3 of these attacks. So the suspect is 13 years old. He's a tall 13 years old. And the parent, I would also say, has been cooperative. And that's really helpful and important as we move this process forward. I believe there will be a hearing probably about 2:30 today. And again, we'll be handing off, the case, if you will, to the prosecutor into the next phase. But I really felt it was super important to kind of let the community know, even before we got deep into the process, that they can take a breath, because we know we had some individuals out patrolling the streets on their own, and the anxiety of the communities, both in Pontiac and in Detroit, because this is, again, the worst nightmare of any parent, to have somebody try to get into the bedroom of your child. So with those kind of limited parameters of what I can answer, any questions?
Sure. 11 cases is a lot. Why didn't we hear anything until this week?
Well, again, some of them weren't necessarily attributable. It was a person had gotten in the house and gotten out. Could have been, a burglary, could have been, some kind of domestic situation. You don't necessarily know until you know. But once, there was more information that led us to then go, wait a minute, a number of these homes have a young girl in the house. Something else might be going on here. And that's when it kind of evolved, and that's when we quickly put the information out to the community.
How did you track down this 13-year-old? Does he live in the neighborhood?
Yeah, we got information from the community. That's what I'm saying. Having people being willing to either give us tips or share information, whether it's that case, as I said, with a fake utility worker, or in this case, very much made the difference. So we got information from a person that they believed this person that we had in that picture was our suspect, and in fact turned out to be so.
What do you think about the fact that this is a child?
Tragically, we've seen children do very dangerous and violent things, scary things. The moniker of a child doesn't necessarily mean they're not capable of doing something very terrible to another person, as we saw at Oxford High School.
Can you talk about, I know there was a 10-year-old girl attacked. Can you talk about the extent of her injuries and any other girls who were attacked? What types of injuries?
In terms of physical injuries, thank God we have very little, but obviously the emotional impact, when you're a child in your bedroom, the most safe and secure thing at home, there obviously has to be a process for them to deal with that trauma, that emotional trauma, that mental health trauma. So I think that's going to be the biggest ongoing thing. I remember when I was a street police officer and I'd go to a simple burglary and people would say, I feel so violated. Imagine if you take it to the next level and you're in bed and somebody grabs you and they have a knife. Regardless of where you move, that fear is going to follow you.
How did you connect this young man with the cases in Detroit? It's not, you've got these other ones close together, these are kind of outside.
Yeah, our detectives, were trying to run down different theories, and they saw and heard about that case, and they were like, huh. And it actually made their case a little more difficult at first because, they were thinking it was a juvenile, and if it was a juvenile, how would they move all the way to Detroit? But we've now pieced that information together.
Can you talk about the time frame in which these all occurred? Because 11 times, 11 break-ins. What was the time frame?
The one goes way back, and there was no even knowledge of it. And that's the other point. Some of these weren't even necessarily reported. And so I think the one that goes way back was about 2 years.
Yes, 2 years.
And then the most recent ones were, I think, going back to the summer.
Sheriff, is there any knowledge that the suspect was targeting homes with young women that he went to school with or that he was familiar with, or was it random?
No, he was targeting homes that he believed there were young girls in, we believe.
The Detroit event, 2 Detroit events, was one event off the top of your head, do you know, was it the January 13 one?
Yes.
Yes.
Bubble and School Drive?
Around that area.
Yeah, that area.
Is that one on the night as well?
Yes.
Can you just react to that? Just a knife to a 9-year-old?
It's terrifying. I mean, again, that child has to deal, and I say child, 9 years old, has to deal with the trauma of being in your safe space, your bedroom, and someone comes in with a knife. I mean, any adult in this room would shudder at that thought, let alone a child. It's terrifying, which is why I'm so appreciative of the effort of our team and Detroit's team to bring this swiftly once everybody kind of realized this is what's going on. It's not just a house was broken into, which is bad enough, but it's a house that's probably being targeted because there's young girls here. And once that, kind of coalesced, a lot of resources were thrown into it, the public was notified, and a swift conclusion is the outcome, which is what we were hoping for.
What's expected at your hearing today?
I believe at 2:30, if it stays on track.
What kind of charges is that looking at?
That will be up to our partner across the street, our prosecutor, who will ultimately determine charging decisions.
So that would involve whether this 13-year-old is being charged as an adult?
That's up to our prosecutor, what the person is charged as and what the charges are. But obviously, it's a very serious situation.
When you say the parent was cooperative, what do you mean?
Without getting into too much information, they were very willing to bring this young individual to our substation and allow our process to move forward. I think, the parent, like most parents, wants to figure out what's going on with their child and what's the next steps forward, especially if they're on a path that's very bad.
Did you recover the knife that was used?
We did it. Yep.
Did we say knife and all, or
Yeah, I don't know. We're the lab and other folks are working with different things now.
What was the actual process of, was he literally opening up bedroom windows and going in that way?
Yeah, he was climbing, well, not necessarily just a bedroom window. He was finding access to the home somewhere with an unlocked window. It seems to be one of the most used opportunities. And that's why we encouraged, when we kind of figured out that this was bigger than just, a random thing, to the community, lock your doors, be situationally aware, all of those kinds of things. Lock your windows. It's not something that we like to think about, but we have to.
Is there any understanding that this 13-year-old was going to these houses and looking at them and casing them out before he committed these crimes, or was he just going to the homes and doing it in that instant?
He did have some knowledge of the homes he was going into and who would be inside.
Yeah, so obviously our detectives in the case know a lot more with some of the specific answers. So he had been, obviously gaining information about potential victims in the homes.
you live in Pontiac or Detroit or another town?
Pontiac.
Two of the victims' mothers said that after this, their family was so traumatized, they are for sure moving. To those families, what would you like to say?
I understand. We're appreciative that, another family doesn't have to go through this, and they should encourage their loved one to get help, to have a process to deal with that, to communicate that traumatic incident, and the whole family, quite frankly. I mean, even as a parent, if something happens to my kid under my roof, I'm going to feel very guilty. And you're the victim in this, not the guilty person. So push back the guilt if you're feeling anything, and understand you've both been victimized, the safety and sanctity of your home for you as a parent and them as a child. And, you know, I would suggest rethink moving, because this could have happened regardless of where they live. This wasn't, it happened to be this neighborhood or that neighborhood. It happened to be because they had a young girl. And so if they move to another house, they still have the young girl. That's the common theme in this particular case. So focus instead on what can they do to help themselves and their child.